Hi, I'm Stu Mitchell. Welcome to Watershed Talks. Well, today I'm going to talk about balance, brain balance, balance in your life. Great movie, 1984, Karate Kid. Pat Morita goes into a scene where he starts telling Daniel, Ralph Macchio, about balance. And of course, the balance starts off with balance for learning how to fight for karate, for the tournament that they're going into. But then, he goes into, where you need balance in your life when he's going out with his friends or girlfriend or whatever it is. And he's teaching them a lesson that, it can't all be one thing. You need balance. And, I think myself, I found out the hard way that balance in your life is very important. I had some issues with balance. I've always been a very aggressive person when it comes to wanting to succeed, wanting to win, and really getting a singular focus on things when I'm very motivated and working on it, or it's important to me or important to my family. And that can be a good thing because you're driven, you work hard, and you're really working hard to try to accomplish something that is good and important. But if you don't maintain balance in your life, it can be a bad thing. And, I am a good example of going to the extreme on focusing too much and not having that balance. I'll attempt to explain the brain a little bit, and I'm sure any neurologist or psychologist, psychiatrist, any of those doctors would probably cringe at my layman's explanation of it, but I'll give it a shot anyway because it's how I understand it. Makes sense to me. Our brain has compartments in it, so we have all these nice, neat little compartments where we have a compartment for when we're doing leisure activities. We have a compartment for work. We have a compartment for our family, and it helps us to be able to focus on those things when we have balance and not to be focused on other things. One of the pieces of advice that I've given to a lot of people over the years in the workplace is, what things do you enjoy outside of work? And especially people that are starting to really get stressed out and a lot of anxiety about things going on at work. And, some people may say, well, I like going to the gym, or I like, I like to ride my motorcycle, I like to hike, whatever the case may be. And then I started asking them, do you do that as much as you used to? Well, no, I don't have time. Well, when you do it, do you enjoy it as much as you used to? And then I ask them to really think about that, because a lot of times they may still do those things, but they find themselves so distracted with what's going on at work or wherever the case may be, whatever's, dominating the big share of your brain, that you're almost going through the motions and you don't have that balance and you don't enjoy it anymore. And that is an unhealthy spot to be. That's where I was a few years back, and quite frankly, I had a breakdown and I lost my ability to be able to focus in on the different things for quite a while, until I really I had some very good doctors that I talked to, some great people in my life, that really helped me out, my family, other folks that really just mean a lot to me, that gave me great advice. But really the best thing that I did was I kind of recommitted myself to God, and, filling up my brain and my heart and my mind with the Bible and good thoughts and happy thoughts and the things that I know, that could make me stronger and better again. And, thank God I was able to, with God's help, really rebuild everything. And, what I found is that, I used to think that God was one of those compartments, that my spiritual life was one of those compartments. Like, well, if you go to church or you read the Bible or, whatever the case may be, when you pray, that's your compartment for God. But then what really helped me and really set me free was when I realized you can't put God in a compartment. God is not a compartment in your brain. God needs to occupy every single compartment and be a component of every compartment. He needs to be the overarching glue that holds everything together in your head, in your heart, in your life. And once I decided to do that, I could start to enjoy the other compartments much more, because I realized that they were all controlled by God, and with God involved, that I could be successful and enjoy all of them. So, when you talk about balance in your brain, balance in your life, it's really important. It's good to be driven. It's good to be successful. You can see when I was a younger man, I used to love to lift and compete, and I used to love to compete in strongman contests. And I still like to lift, not like I used to. I still enjoy that. But, back then I got very focused on it. Focused to the point where it was unhealthy, to where I would almost hurt myself to win and succeed. You could see some of the trophies over here. I believe in winning. They don't give big trophies for second place, right? They give the plaques, which I don't even like putting up sometimes, because it just wasn't a victory, right? I was always so ultra focused on winning. But, that can be almost a very good thing, but it can also be a very bad thing if you don't maintain that balance. The best way to maintain that balance is by making God the glue that holds it together, putting him in every compartment of your life. And, when you do that, when you make that commitment, and, it's so incredible, because I was in a spot where I wondered if I would ever be able to come back to where I was before. I had pressured speech. I couldn't talk. I couldn't remember things. And memory is one of the things that, God's always blessed me with a very good memory. And I've gotten really far with a good memory, being able to recall things when I need to. And it was really scary. But, it was amazing that, I think sometimes we look at physical things when we go through it. And, when God heals a physical thing, I just heard a great testimony of from some really good friends of mine last night about, someone that made a miraculous recovery. And I was so thankful to hear that. And that's a lot of times when we think about, God healing us and miracles, that's what we think about. But, in your brain, in your heart, in your soul, you could be just as hurt and just as damaged, and you need that same type of healing. And since it's not an outward thing that people can see, a lot of times they can't empathize with you as much, or they can't be there as much for you. And, and it's always the things too, when you struggle with some of those things where, by no fault of their own, but you wind up getting a lot of terrible advice, right? Like, one of the things when I was struggling with anxiety is people would tell me, Stu, just calm down. And that would be the worst advice I could ever get, right? I was thinking, if I could calm down, I would calm down. If I could calm down, well, I probably wouldn't be in the hospital right now, right? So sometimes when somebody's dealing with something you don't really understand, the best thing you can do for them is just be there. Listen to them. You don't always have to have an answer for them. You could just be there and say, I don't understand. It sounds terrible, but I'm going to be here for you. I'll do anything, I'll give you advice. I'll help you out any way that you need help. But you don't always have to have an answer for people. So I think, when it comes to things that are inside of us, it's a little bit harder if you haven't gone through it yourself to truly understand and to be there for people. But the one person that always is there is God, is Jesus. So I would encourage everyone today, if you're going through something, if it's internal, and I know a lot of people are, this is a tough environment we're living in this world right now. Well, today's the day after Thanksgiving where I'm recording, and I'm going to release it tomorrow, Saturday. But, it's tough out there. It's, people don't know quite what to do when it comes to the pandemic, the vaccination. Some people think they know exactly what to do. I'm in the camp of, I do what's best for me and my family, but I want to see my family as well. So I try really hard to do the right thing, but also to be smart and safe about it. at the end of the day, I think that, the great part of living in the United States of America is that, well, we all have the ability to make those decisions ourselves, right? And I believe that, respecting differences is something that we should all do. And, we should never fight about that, because at the end of the day, we have free will. If God gives us free will to choose life or death, then who are we to be the judge, jury, and executioner for people if they disagree with us? I mean, God gives us free will. Are we going to say that we don't respect other people's, decisions? Even though we might not agree with them, we don't have to agree with them. And we may be able to slowly develop a relationship with them and have opportunities to speak to them. And they may even change your mind, or we may even change our mind depending on what it is. But we should respect those differences in opinions, because if we don't, then we're just going to continue to isolate ourselves, and it won't matter if there's a pandemic or not. That isolation will continue, and it'll get harder and harder to bridge that gap. So I think it's important that we don't use the pandemic as a reason to isolate ourselves, even if it means that we don't always get to see each other. That's all right. But we should talk, we should text, we should get together in settings where it's safe, and we should make sure that we develop and we continue to work on our relationships together. Because the longer they go unattended, it's just like anything else. They get in disrepair, and it's a lot easier to just stick around with the people that you've been with and isolate yourself. And isolation is a great trick of the devil's to pick off people. I mean, it's the same thing with, you watch all these nature shows, or, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but there's always a little antelope at the back of the herd going along, and he gets a little further off, more isolated, and then bang, the lion comes and takes him out, or whatever animal. And that's, it's a classic trick of predators that they do that. They try to isolate people and then pick them off. So don't isolate yourself, don't isolate others. Let's just do this thing together as people, as Christians, as families, and not lose sight of what's important. Thank you, and God bless.